What is or are the biggest challenge or challenges that you realize that people are having to obtain a successful relationship?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things that come to mind, but I think like people struggle with like how to communicate what they want and advocate for their needs. And I talk about women a lot, and this not saying men don't have a voice, but I think in society, men is you can have your voice, you can say whatever, and people are like, yeah, I think I agree with that. You're not judged as harshly for that, but I think women are kind of sometimes shut down from communicating their needs, so they go into like a survival mode in their relationships. And that's why you see then on the divorce side, they're saying like a lot of women are leaving because they're carrying all these different roles: mom, caregiver, sister, daughter, entrepreneur, all these roles. And they're in these relationships where they don't feel sometimes emotionally supported. So I would say like finding your voice from the women's perspective and advocating for your needs in a way, because some people are just uncomfortable. In the past, maybe they grew up in families where when someone advocated for their needs, they were shut down. Or maybe when they advocated for their needs, no one heard them. So it's like they have to get back to this point as an adult, like, how do I advocate and say what I want and hold the person accountable? And then I think the other thing is how people fight. Like conflict resolution is like if you get with someone, I always tell people, and you guys can fight and like not tear each other apart, that's a huge indicator of relationship success. But people struggle with conflict.
What?
Yeah, they struggle with it because people fight different ways. For some people, when they fight, if things get elevated, they're afraid they're going to say stuff they can't take back. They're afraid it could escalate because, again, they could have experiences they're bringing into it. So they may avoid, they may disappear. And you're like, why are they disappearing? I need them to talk to me about this, which makes that person more like ramped up and more like, why are you pulling away? So I think like understanding. That's why I said take that time to discover someone. In a year, you don't know someone. You think you do, but you really don't. I mean, it takes time, but time will reveal like who they are. But just thinking about the conflict piece, like you need to know, like, hey, when you get upset about something, how do you typically handle that? Like, what feels comfortable to you? Well, my husband always says, like, if you want to know someone, fight them. And like not physically fight them, but watch what happens when you're in a fight with them, because you will see a lot of their attributes. If they're
Woo!
petty, if they're like, how they come at you, do they go for the jugular? Are they fair? Like things will be revealed. So I feel like when you are having a disagreement with someone, can someone like step away and say, you know what? You see things differently. I respect that.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Don't fight me, cause I fight to kill.
Oh, so
So
let's dig deeper into that.
I will fight to kill, and that's why I don't fight because I
But why
know
do you
how.
feel like you fight to kill?
Because I'm not gonna fight anybody that I unless I deem you as an enemy. So I will go into the 10th power of trying to talk this out.
This is a little Aquarius, you guys.
When
We'll
I
be
go to
quiet
the
with it.
when I go to the 10th power to talk this out and you still didn't take all other, different avenues, it's like, okay, so you really want the smoke. You want the smoke? Here's the smoke.
So you go extreme, huh?
I mean, it depends on what deem
You
extreme.
said to the 10th. I mean, that's pretty extreme.
It's pretty extreme. I'm saying I ain't gonna lie, it's pretty extreme. But my thing is because I don't I do very, very well at communicating, right? I'm not you don't have to guess. I will tell you exactly what it is. And I'm actually too good at communicating because nobody even knows how to accept communication. Right? So
No one?
not nobody, but
I'm just asking to
you get what
follow
I mean?
up.
I'm talking about no one in my life. So like when I start speaking about things, it's like, okay, it can come off as harsh, but I've learned over the years my delivery could make
Oh,
something.
I like that you said that. So you had some self awareness
Oh yeah, a
that
lot.
I'm a good communicator, but I may need to temper the way I communicate, even though I'm a good communicator. That's good
Yeah.
awareness.
Well,
That's
that's why
smart.
that's how I became a great communicator,
Okay.
right? Because before it was like you don't have to guess, I would just speak,
Hmm.
right? And I know that most people are never given the truth as raw as it is in their life.
But okay, I'm going to challenge you a little bit.
Yes, ma'am.
So when there's conflict, I think sometimes there could be two dynamics happening in a relationship. One person is like they're going to come in, they want to solve the problem. Let's talk about it. Let's get through it. I'm communicating what I need. Okay, we're good. Then the other person's like, I'm not ready for it, or I need to process it. I need to like reflect on it. Can we table this for a minute? And that could feel uncomfortable for a person that's used to like solving through it. So I think you can have different dynamics that create what you think you're having good communication, but you have to understand your partner. So I had to learn this because I'm the person that's like, come on, let's talk about it. I want to solve through it. My husband, he's more like a processor. And so sometimes he would come back to me later and be like, yeah, I heard what you said about this and I want to try to do this differently. And I would think sometimes he wasn't listening because in that moment of us having the disagreement, he wasn't telling me information, or he would be like, I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
But I had to learn, like, oh, you know what? He needs time to process it. I don't need to give him 20 issues at once. I need to focus on like one issue. I need to tell him how I feel in a better way. I was very direct like you, so I understand exactly what you're saying. I'm like, I need to talk about the emotional effect and how this is going to help our relationship as a whole more so. Because when you come at it like I'm in it to win it, or if you come in it like, my way is the right way,
Nah, it's
it,
not.
it just it
It's
doesn't
not.
end
But I
well.
think that communication, when you're communicating with a partner, you need to be able to speak clearly about whatever it is that you're feeling,
Absolutely.
and also provide some type of solution.
Yes.
Right. I think a lot of people will come
But
in.
sometimes, can I challenge that a little bit? So sometimes it depends. Like, and you know this, you have kids. So I learned this too. Like my teenager, like she would say to me, like, I would say, yeah, what you should do this, and this. She'd tell me her problem, and I'd be like, okay, let's figure this out. And then one day she said, I just want you to listen. I don't need you to solve through this. And so each time I would talk to her after that, I would be like, is this you venting? Do you want us to problem solve through this? So I think it's not just communicating and giving a solution, but like really communicating and saying like, okay, what do you need in this moment? Because sometimes the person doesn't want, they may
Yeah.
know the answer, but they just may want to talk it through with you.
No, no, I understand what you're saying. I'm not speaking in that context.
Okay.
I'm speaking from a me to them, not a them to me.
Okay.
Right. So, because communicating and listening, I guess listening is a form of communication. But in this exact, I guess example, there has to be a doer and there has to be a receiver.
Don't you think like too like listening is not just like listening, it's actually like an action. So it's like sometimes we may think like how you're in that moment with someone and you're ticked off and you just bleh, you just because it's been building in you, and then that person bleh, back to you, and it's like you're trying to clean up this whole mess but you can't like really clean it up. So sometimes in communication it is one way. It is you just listening to someone without always going to a solution. But I'm not saying you can't or you shouldn't have a solution, but it just
Yeah.
depends on your
But
audience.
like my thing is this: I'm not a build up person. You're never gonna get something built up out of me, because the only way it gets built up is if it's been repeated.
Hmm.
I can't. I'm not that type of person. You can bump me, and then I just hold it in, and then you bump me 17 more times, and then you get all 18 of those bumps.
Yeah,
I've
you
never
let
been
you
that
let things
person.
out immediately. It
Yeah,
sounds like
yeah. Because
in the
I don't have
moment
the I don't have the capacity to
to
hold
hold
on
all
to
that
little
in,
things,
which
right?
is healthy. But some people they don't have the capacity on the other side to always like give to say, hey, I feel this way. Like
Oh
it may
yeah,
take
yeah,
them
yeah.
a like insurmountable amount of courage to be like, man, you really hurt my feelings the other day when you did this, and this, and you can hear them their voice shaking or the nervousness. So all I'm saying is you have to give consideration to both parties.
Yeah, of course, but that's not the solution. Here's the solution, right?
And he will be talking to me later about this, you
Here's the
guys.
solution. Well, like for me, and like what I had to learn to do was I will write things down, right?
Hmm.
Because I don't, first and foremost, where I'm going in my life and everything that I've acquired and accomplished in my life, I don't have time to deviate off of this road to be upset about something that I find minuscule. But at the same time, I can't afford for this minuscule thing to
To
persist
build up,
and
yeah.
build up, right?
Mhm.
So I will write something down, and the way that I will approach it is like, depends on the person. I've never really had a toxic relationship. I've never had a relationship where I fought all the time.
Mm.
Besides really one, and that was because Instagram was new. You know what I'm saying? We were 21, 22 years old. Instagram is new, and I want to show my abs, and she's like, "Why do you want to show your abs?" We're like kids. That doesn't even really count. But like outside of that, I don't. All right, whatever, it
It's
counts.
part of your relationship history.
All right, so we'll chalk that one up. It's my
Right.
Carfax. Yeah,
Sure, one accident.
yeah, that's my one accident, and it wasn't even my fault. I wasn't at fault. But outside of that, because I don't do well, like I know, like again, growing up how I grew up, it was nothing but toxic. So
Mhm.
I'm an analyzer and I'm patient when it comes to, you know, fixing a problem, because I know a lot of I look at problems like knots, right? And there's like, you think it's just one string, but there's a reason why this whole thing exists.
Mhm.
So when you actually look at it as a knot, you start to peel it out little by little, and then you can actually untangle it so it could be flush. So that's how I always looked at it. So I'm patient with the problem. But now when the person is not being receptive, which at times it was my fault because of my delivery, right? Because I'd be like, to me, it's simple, but to them, it's like a Rubik's Cube.
Mhm.
And that's when I realized that those people and I are just not the same level, and we just need to
I mean, there's
separate.
that too, and
But
that's I mean, there's that too. Like I like that you say, you are like you want to lean in, you want to communicate because you have awareness that what you saw maybe growing up, you don't want to repeat that. It sounds like you've consciously made that decision. But some people grow up in situations and that's all they know. So when you're
yeah,
getting someone, you're getting all of their history, all of their cargo, all of their baggage. Get a relationship, you're on the ship
yeah, yep.
together, and you're like, so the way you might deal with it, it might be very healthy, way of like, hey, let's talk about it. But you could be with someone else. I'm just saying, be aware that you're like, why are they shutting down? And there could be a reason. And I think it's important to like explore that, like how
You
people
have an
deal with things.
index finger. All right, repeat after. I mean, do this. Let's practice this exercise.
This don't sound good.
Raise your index finger of either hand, and then raise the middle finger of the same hand. That's what you get. Do it again.
So you're saying the two?
Deuces.
Deuces.
That's what I don't have time for that no anymore. Like,
Look, you can. I mean, this is the thing. That's the beauty to me. That's the beauty of dating. That people are in such a rush. Like, I got to get with this person. I got to find this person. Dating is a beautiful thing. There's
yeah,
no commitment in the early phases until you guys decide to have commitment. So you really truly are discovering this person, and this is a great time to just sit back and observe. Don't give all the answers to the test away. Like, how do they communicate? How do they deal with conflict? Now, if you decide, okay, you know what, maybe there's just gaps because of things they experience, but I really like this person. Okay, jump in and say, hey, let's talk about this. But just sit back because people will always show you and tell you who they are.
yeah. But some of them will do it 5 years later.
Some people are good, but people I don't think can play that game more than a year,
You
honestly.
don't think so?
No.
Yo, I know.
I think there's always signs. When I talk to people who break up with people or who divorce people, they always can go back to the moment where they were like, I felt something in my gut
That's,
at this point, but I ignored it. I think it's us. Sometimes we just push it away, but we know. And then it kind of keeps recurring. And we're like, yeah, I know this isn't the
that's
right thing, but you just keep going down and down that road into something so toxic happens. You're like, I can't ignore this anymore.